December 20th, 2014, from University Stadium in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It was the New Mexico Bowl between Utah State and UTEP. So we had the Aggies versus the Miners. And UTEP would get the ball first. They would start off on their own 25, but after 6 plays, they would punt it to the Aggies. And so Utah State would take over on their own 4-yard line with about 11 minutes left in the first. And after 8 plays, they would punt from their own 38. So now UTEP would take over on their own 26, and they would end up getting into Aggie territory when Jameill Showers hit Ian Hamilton for a 53-yard reception on 3rd and 10 from the 26 that brought the ball to the 21. They would get into the red zone, but their drive would stall on the 14 a few plays later, and Mattox would come out to attempt a 32-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and the Miners were on the board first with the score UTEP 3, Utah State 0. So now the Aggies would take over on their own 25, and there was about 3 minutes left in the first quarter. And then on first down, after they got a first down and they had it on the UTEP 48, Kent Myers ran 48 yards all the way for the touchdown. He took it himself as he just took it right up the middle and just took off running. And that put the Aggies on the scoreboard and in the lead with the score now Utah State 7, UTEP 3. So now UTEP would take over on their own 11, and they would end up bringing the first quarter to a close when they got a first down on 3rd and 3 from the 18 with a 4-yard run by Showers. So after 1 quarter of play, the score was Utah State 7, UTEP 3. Now to be in the second quarter, UTEP would have a first down on their own 22. They wouldn't get another first down, and they would end up punting from their own 29. So 6 plays on the possession. Now the Aggies took over on their own 23, and they would go 3 and out and punt from their own 22. They actually went backwards on the possession. And now UTEP would take over on their own 48, and they would get into Aggie territory. But after 6 plays, they would end up punting from the Utah State 41. So now the Aggies took over on their own 20. They picked up a first down, but then on first down from the 32, Kent Myers was intercepted by Damian Payne. And so now UTEP would take back over with about 7.5 minutes left before halftime, and they had the ball on their own 43. But they would end up going 3 and out and punting from their own 44. And so now Utah State would take over on their own 16. They'd pick up a first down, but then on first down from the 32, Kent Myers was sacked, and he fumbled the ball. Was forced by Adrian James. Adrian James fumbled him. He sacked him, and Alvin Jones ended up recovering the fumble. And so now UTEP had the ball in scoring position in field goal range on the Aggie 24. They ended up picking up a first down and getting into the red zone. They got all the way to the 5-yard line, but then a holding penalty would move them backwards. And then they would end up faced with a 4th and 4 on the Utah State 8. And they ended up losing 2 yards as they went for it, and they turned the ball over on downs. So they don't even get a field goal. And now the Aggies would take over on their own 10. And they would end up getting the ball on the first play, first down. Ronald Butler ran 61 yards all the way into UTEP territory to the 29. And then a pass interference gave them the ball in the red zone on the 14. But then they got called for a illegal formation that moved them back. And as it were, they ended up picking up 8 yards on a run by Butler, and an incomplete pass would bring out Nick Diaz to attempt a 28-yard field goal on the final play of the first half. It was up, and it was no good. So the Aggies failed to extend their lead right before halftime. And so going into the locker rooms at halftime in the New Mexico Bowl, the score was Utah State 7, UTEP 3. So now the Aggies would take over to start the second half, and they'd start on their own 25 for their first possession of the second half. They picked up a first down, went on 3rd and 5 from the 30. Kent Myers hit JoJo Natson for a 46-yard reception, a first down that brought the ball into UTEP territory at the 24. And they would end up getting another first down and getting the ball to the 3-yard line. And on first and goal from the 3, Nick Vigil punched it in from 3 yards out for the touchdown to make it Utah State 14, UTEP 3. So the Aggies extended their lead to 11. So now UTEP would take over on their own 25 with about 12 minutes left in the third. And after 5 plays, they would end up punting from their own 48. So they did pick up a first down, but their drive stalled at midfield, and now the Aggies would take over on their own 32. They would go 3 and out and punt from the 34. So now UTEP had the ball back with about 8 minutes left in the third. They had it on their own 30, and they would be faced with a 3rd and 8. And that's when Jameill Showers was intercepted by Tyler Floyd. And so now the Aggies would take over at midfield. They would go 3 and out for the second consecutive possession and punt it right back to UTEP. So now UTEP took over on their own 11 with less than 4 minutes left in the quarter, and they would end up punting after 4 plays from the 26. So now the Aggies got the ball, and they had it on their own 47. And they would end up getting into UTEP territory. And on 3rd and 2 from the 34, they got stuffed, though, for a 5-yard loss. Kent Myers fumbled the ball, but he recovered his fumble, and the third quarter came to a close. So after 3 quarters of play, the score was Utah State 14, UTEP 3. So now to begin the fourth quarter, the Aggies would punt the ball from the UTEP 39. So now the Miners would take over, backed up against their own end zone on their own 3-yard line, and they would go 3 and out and punt from the 10. So now the Aggies would take over on the UTEP 37 after the punt, with about 13 and a half minutes left in this game. And they would end up not really getting too far. They did pick up a first down, but after 7 plays, they would attempt a 47-yard field goal from the 29. Nick Diaz came out and he kicked it, and it was up, and it was no good. So the score remained Utah State 14, UTEP 3. So now UTEP would take over with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They had the ball on their own 30. They picked up some first downs. They were faced with 4th and 1, and they picked up a first down with a 3-yard run by Showers. That was from the 39 to bring it to the 42. And then a 4th and 2 on the 34 of Utah State, and Showers hit forward for a 4-yard pass to bring it to the 30. And they were faced with a 3rd and 9 from the 29, and Showers ended up running 9 yards all the way to the Aggie 20. So that was a first down for UTEP. But then they wouldn't really get much further, as they would only get to the 16, and that's when Mattox would come out to attempt a 34-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and now the Miners cut the Aggies' lead to 8 with the score Utah State 14, UTEP 6. So now the Aggies would take over after the kickoff on their own 35. And on first down, JoJo Natson ran it 23 yards for the first down that brought the ball into UTEP territory at the 42. Then on 2nd and 11 from the 43, Joe Hill ran 32 yards all the way to the red zone at the UTEP 11. So first down for the Aggies. And that's when Joe Hill then ran for 11 yards all the way into the end zone for the touchdown to extend the Aggies' lead to 15, with the score now Utah State 21, UTEP 6. So now UTEP would take over on their own 25, needing 2 scores in a minute and a half. And they wouldn't get even one. They would get to midfield, but that's where the game would come to a close with 2 incomplete passes. And the final score, Utah State 21, UTEP 6, here in the New Mexico Bowl. And in this game, Kent Myers was 5 for 12 with 68 passing yards and 1 interception. He had 15 carries for 70 yards and 1 rushing touchdown to be the leading rusher for the Aggies. And Jameill Showers was 13 for 24 with 126 passing yards and an interception. He had 10 carries for 24 yards rushing. And the game's leading rusher was Aaron Jones of UTEP. He had 25 carries for 88 yards. And the leading receiver was also for UTEP. It was Ian Hamilton. He had 4 receptions for 79 yards. And the leading rusher for the Aggies was Kent Myers, and the leading receiver was JoJo Natson. He had 2 receptions for 47 yards. And the final score, Utah State 21, UTEP 6.